This movie attempts to show how, after a dark and dreadful period, starting from the middle of the 19th century, when the only independent country in the Muslim world was being viciously attacked and its ramparts were being bombarded, it resisted and rebuilt itself. This story highlights a few major events that restored the sovereignty and dignity of the country. Most of these events were played out in the theatres of war in the region, and the actors were the noble sons of the land we now call Turkey. But a few important players emerged in a remote land, and certain epoch-making events took place nearly 5,000 kilometers away, which proved beneficial in shoring up the tottering Turkish state. These events included multiple medical missions to help the war wounded, countering propaganda against it, lobbying support for it in the international arena, putting political pressure on the British Raj, as well as funneling funds into the economy, and, importantly, laying down lives to uphold its cause. These events were mainly acted out in what is now called the subcontinent, through the length and breadth of it. The story is being told to inspire hope and confidence in the goodness and the resilience of the Muslim Ummah. The year is 1874, corresponding to 1294 of the Hijri era. The Orthodox Christian Balkan states have formed a confederacy and are rebelling against the Ottomans. With the active support of Russia, these Balkan states continue their concerted attacks against the Ottoman troops. They carry out savage massacres of the Muslim residents of their areas. The onslaught is severe. The Ottomans are forced to go on the back foot. These skirmishes eventually lead to the Russo-Turkish War of 1877. This news reaches a young Indian scholar in a sleepy town called Deoband, ending sleepless nights wondering what would happen if the bastion of Islam falls. This thought disturbs him no end. He starts by raising awareness among his fellow countrymen about the plight of the defenders of the Khilafah. He issues religious rulings in support of mobilizing funds to help the war efforts of his Turkish comrades. This young scholar is known today as Mohammed Qasim An-Nanawtawi. His biographer writes, on the very first night of his wedding, he, Imam Nanawtwi, spoke to his wife about the travails of the Ottoman forces, who were combating insurrection in the Balkans, and how it was important to ensure the Ottoman Khilafat is not overrun by its enemies. The newly wedded bride is moved by the plight of the Ottoman soldiers and realizes the important role they were playing to keep aloft the banner of Islam. She gladly donates all her jewelry to support the Ottoman troops fighting in the Balkans. However, a few weeks later, when she went to visit her parents, her father noticed that she did not have on her any of the ornaments he gifted her for her wedding. On inquiring from her the reason and learning what transpired, he bought her another set of ornaments similar to the ones he had gifted her for her marriage. However, when she returned to her husband's home, bedecked with the new jewelry her father had given her, Imam Nanawtwi narrated to her the reverses being faced by the Ottoman forces and how each penny would be critical in helping them confront their enemy. Again, moved by the account she heard from her husband, she readily donates all her ornaments to support the Ottoman forces. In the year 1874, Imam Mohammed Qasim An-Nanawtawi wrote a religious decree or a fatwa for supporting the Ottomans against the Balkan states and the Russian Empire. A report or rudad was compiled detailing the efforts of the ulama for collecting funds to support the mujahideen in the Balkans. These mujahideen or warriors were part of the Ottoman Empire and were fighting a war against the Russian-sponsored aggression on the Balkan territories of the Ottoman Empire. Imam Nanawtwi wrote a detailed treatise in Farsi or Persian in which he explained the importance of this war, including the need to support the Turk-Ottoman army and especially to provide them financial support. This treatise was translated in different languages and was published in numerous newspapers and magazines. It also got vibrant support from the Ottoman Empire. In this report, letters from Nanawtwi and officials including the Prime Minister of the Ottoman Empire are described. This report is a fine example of how Nanawtwi, his disciples and his colleagues were engaged in a conversation with the high officials of the Ottoman Empire, and the manner in which the Ottoman Empire acknowledged the support received. In the first phase, this report mentioned Russian attempts on Turkish Ottoman territories and its negative impact, including the killings of Muslim men, women and children in those territories. Later, this report mentions the importance of the Caliph's authority and why this is crucial for the safety and dignity of the two holy shrines of Islam in Mecca and Medina. This report, or Ar-Rudad, forecasted the global harm to the Muslim community if the Muslim community did not have a central authority. This centrality exists due to the Caliph's regime it mentioned. Hence, to support the Caliphate is must and compulsory, he stressed. It is a religious obligation and duty which every Muslim must fulfill, he averred. If this centrality is lost, the entire Islamic world will face severe consequences, he prophesied. In the opinion of Imam Nanawtwi and his colleagues, the most important task during this period was to support Ottoman troops against aggressions being carried out by the Christian Balkan states and the Russian Empire. This task of extending unstinted support to the Ottomans, the scholars asserted, is more important than building mosques and supporting educational institutions. Supporting the troops of the Khalifa, according to Imam Nanawtwi, will boost the morale of the Ottoman troops and will not make them feel abandoned in their struggle against their enemies. They will realize, he asserted, that their Muslim brothers in India are with them in their hour of difficulty. Apart from Imam Nanawtwi, the other people who were involved in collecting funds for the Ottoman army were Ahmad Ali Muhaddis of Saharanpur, Mazhar Nanawtwi, and the great jurist and friend of Imam Nanawtwi, Rashid Ahmad Gangohi. The funds collected were delivered to the Ottoman embassy in Bombay. This amount was sent in several installments. The collection was not confined to the town of Deoband. On the behest of Imam Nanawtwi, the fund collection had become a national movement. Muslims, rich or poor, from different parts of the country were raising funds with zeal and enthusiasm. This zealous effort was aimed at protecting the integrity and honor of the central Muslim leadership. The total amount collected and delivered to the Turkish embassy in Bombay reached 1.2 million rupees of those times. The list of donors and the amounts received were published in the form of a report by the Ottoman embassy in Bombay. It was called the Daftar-e-A'inat-e Hindiya. The then Prime Minister of the Ottoman Empire, Ibrahim Adham, sent a letter of thanks to Imam Nanawtwi and the other elders of the Madrasa Islamia Arabiya Deoband. The story continues in the next episode.